By 1776, the American colonies found themselves at a breaking point. After years of resistance, failed attempts at reconciliation, and the constant push for more autonomy, they were no longer willing to simply plead for their rights. The rejection of the Olive Branch Petition in 1775 by King George III marked the end of the possibility for peaceful negotiation. With blood already spilled in Lexington and Concord, the colonies now had only one option: independence. The Declaration of Independence became the rallying cry for a movement that would redefine the future of the world. This was the moment when rebellion transformed into revolution. The Declaration of Independence, adopted on July 4, 1776, was not merely a political document. It was a radical and profound assertion of the colony's right to self-governance and freedom. Written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, this document laid the foundation for the philosophical and moral argument that would guide the American Revolution. It included a powerful critique of King George III's tyranny and oppression, listing the various ways the monarch had violated the colony's rights. The Declaration was revolutionary, not just for its call for independence, but for its articulation of the universal right to liberty, a sentiment that echoed far beyond the American colonies. One of the most enduring aspects of the Declaration was its focus on the natural rights of individuals. It asserted that all men are endowed with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words inspired not only the American colonies, but also revolutionary movements around the world, as they advocated for the idea that freedom and equality should be the birthright of every human being. This belief in natural rights would form the backbone of the fledgling American democracy. Although the Declaration was a document of great ideals, it also marked a practical and immediate break from Britain. By declaring independence, the colonies officially rejected British authority and paved the way for the establishment of a new nation. This was a bold and dangerous move, especially since the colonies were still vastly outnumbered and outgunned by the powerful British Empire. But the Declaration was more than a political statement. It was an expression of collective resolve. The signers of the Declaration were committing not just their names, but their lives, for they knew that treason would result in the execution if the revolution failed. Following the signing of the Declaration, the colonies quickly moved to secure international support. They knew that the struggle for independence could not be won alone. France, long a rival of Britain, saw an opportunity to weaken their enemy and, in turn, supported the American cause. In 1778, the Franco-American alliance was formalized, and France began sending vital military aid. French troops and supplies, as well as a powerful French navy, were crucial to the success of the revolution. Their involvement ensured that the American cause could continue despite the many challenges the colonies faced. But the process of securing international support wasn't simple. Many European powers, while eager to see Britain weaken, hesitated to openly back the colonies at first. The revolution needed to prove itself on the battlefield. The Continental Army, under General George Washington's leadership, faced numerous challenges. From a lack of trained soldiers to insufficient supplies, Washington had to fight not only against the British, but also the harsh conditions of war. However, Washington's leadership and the resilience of the American troops were key to maintaining the revolution's momentum. Meanwhile, the colonies were grappling with internal divisions. While some were wholeheartedly in favor of independence, others were hesitant. The question of how to unite the colonies under a single banner remained unresolved for much of the early revolution. Despite these challenges, the Continental Congress acted as the central governing body, managing the war effort, diplomacy, and communications. The creation of the Continental Army, led by Washington, was a step toward consolidating the colonies' efforts. But achieving full unity would be a struggle, as various factions, each with their own interests, had to come together in the face of external threats. As the revolution progressed, the Continental Army faced increasingly difficult circumstances. The American forces lacked the resources, experience, and infrastructure that the British military took for granted. The Continental Congress was ill-equipped to fund the war, and there was no central bank or system of taxation in place. The result was a constant shortage of funds, food, clothing, and ammunition. Many soldiers were forced to endure brutal conditions at winter encampments like Valley Forge, where disease, hunger, and cold took a devastating toll. Despite these hardships, the American cause remained resilient. The early victories at Saratoga in 1777, where American forces decisively defeated the British Army, proved to the world that the Revolution had a chance. This victory was especially significant because it convinced France to officially ally with the colonies. French military aid, along with support from other European powers, provided a much-needed boost to the American war effort. The alliance was crucial in turning the tide of the war. The Battle of Saratoga also had a profound impact on morale within the colonies. After a series of defeats and challenges, the victory demonstrated that the Continental Army, under Washington's leadership, could hold its own against the British. The battle's success also laid the groundwork for future military alliances, particularly with France, whose naval support would become a decisive factor in the final stages of the war. Despite the successes at Saratoga and the continued support of France, the war remained far from over. The British military, while facing difficulties in the colonies, was still a formidable force. The British continued to control major cities like New York and Philadelphia, and they were able to launch new offensives throughout the colonies. The revolutionaries, however, were not easily defeated. Washington's ability to keep the Continental Army intact, despite the many challenges, was key to keeping hope alive. Throughout the war, the American cause was not just a military struggle, but a battle for unity. The colonies were diverse, each with its own interests, cultures, and priorities. The struggle for independence required not only military strength, but also political cooperation. The Continental Congress acted as a central body for the colonies, but there were ongoing disagreements about the role of government, the rights of the individual states, and the future structure of the new nation. In addition to military and political challenges, the colonies also faced economic difficulties. The war placed an immense strain on the colonial economy, and the Continental Congress had limited means to raise funds. Inflation was rampant, and the fledgling American currency rapidly lost value. The colonies relied heavily on France for financial support, but there were still constant shortages and difficulties in managing the economy during wartime. Despite these challenges, the American colonies remained resolute. As the war continued, the Declaration of Independence served as a constant reminder of their ultimate goal: to create a free, independent nation. The revolution was not simply about defeating Britain, it was about establishing a new identity, one based on liberty, democracy, and self-governance. As the war raged on, the colonies moved closer to achieving their goal. The Franco-American alliance, the strategic leadership of General Washington, and the resilience of the American people ensured that the cause of independence would ultimately prevail. The Declaration of Independence, though a formal document, symbolized the strength of the colony's commitment to freedom and self-determination. The Declaration of Independence marked the beginning of a long, difficult struggle for the American colonies. Despite significant challenges, military setbacks, economic hardships, and internal divisions, the colonies remained united in their pursuit of liberty. This was the birth of a new nation, forged in revolution and determined to create a government based on the principles of equality and freedom.